Eddie Whitlock, candidate for State Senate, Republican District 12.
Good morning, John. Thank you so much for having me back.
This campaign, there are 4 candidates. I did my odds about 2 ago or so. I had you, I think, 4 or 5 to 1, but really right there in this race. How do you separate yourself out, Eddie, distinguish yourself as a nominee?
Well, John, I think the answer is experience. We have 4 good candidates. We have 4 good people who all bring different things to the table. But I'm the one candidate that has the most connections to Henrico County. I was born and raised here, educated here, married, raised my children here, had a business here since '94. I've been involved in many different activities, things that give me unique experience that I can bring to the Virginia Senate. Not only things in leadership through the state bar, through church organizations, through civic organizations, but opportunities in coaching children, being involved in school boards, presidents of PTO, leadership through legislative action for 3 different schools, some unique perspectives that I can bring to the Senate.
So when you say you have a unique perspective, put that in terms of not only kind of the atmosphere and the attitude that you would bring, but put that in how would you look at legislation differently?
Well, we talked last time about my view, which is I look at spending first. I look at the bills to make sure that the function is first of all needed. Mm-hmm. And if it's needed, then the next question is whether or not it's something government should be involved in or whether the private industry should be doing. And then you look at those factors. If they pass those tests, then you look at spending from a very basic concept. Don't assume that the project, first of all, is worthy. It has to be reviewed each year. And don't assume that the spending just automatically gets increased. It needs to be reviewed on a regular basis to make sure that that spending is in fact needed, that it still passes those smell tests, and that it can be done by the government only and not done more effectively by private industry. So that's the first way I take a look at things, is take a look at the spending, because while we all want to cut taxes, but if we don't address the spending first, we don't put ourselves in the best position to address what taxes need to be raised.
Hey, Eddie,
when I say raised, I mean levied, not actually increased.
Right. Is there a particular area of spending, if you've looked at the budget, that if you were in the state Senate, that you would advocate cutting back?
I think across the board it needs to be reviewed. The areas that I've reviewed that have the most concern are functions that I think that are not essential forms of matters that need to be done by the government, not private industry. It's interesting. We talked about the whole ABC regulations now. McAuliffe is taking a look at trying to privatize ABC stores. Mm-hmm. It's something that Governor McDonald had brought up a long time ago, and the Democrats opposed. Now all of a sudden, it's like it's his idea. Mm-hmm. The government doesn't need to be in the business of selling alcohol.
Right.
It's not an essential function of government. Those, and there are several other items that are not essential functions of government. And that's the first place I think we go.
So why don't we go back to 2013, the transportation legislation, the great compromise, if you will, that got signed into law. If you were in the state Senate at that time, is that something you would have been favorable to or no?
I would have been opposed to it.
Why?
Well, first of all, here in Henrico County, our roads are excellent. And we have a great way of providing for responsible government in Henrico and Hanover County. Our road systems are good. A lot of the bills, the focus of this bill was mainly on Northern Virginia road systems. And no offense to the people in Northern Virginia, but I don't want to place that burden on my constituents.
Right. So you would have voted in opposition to that. Is there anything that you saw in this 2015 session that passed and you would have fought to stop it, or something that you would have liked to see happen that got stalled?
Wow, that's a lot of info. We had a short session this year, so it was action-packed and crammed. I can't think off the top of my head, John, of any one particular measure, but we go back again about the fact that I'm very concerned about our spending. You take a look at the proliferation of spending in Virginia, and Virginia's government is far superior to anything we have in Washington. But we take a look at the proliferation of spending and the growth of government over the last 20 years, and it's alarming. And until we get a handle on that and go back to some of our most basic Jeffersonian conservative traditions here in Virginia, government's going to continue to grow. And that means spending is going to continue to grow, and that means taxes are going to continue to go up. That's the wrong direction. We need to go the exact opposite direction.
Okay, let's get to energy. I just asked a similar question to Janice, who was just on Mountain Valley Pipeline. What do you think?
Two competing values here. Maybe even three. But first of all, we're balancing out the need for energy production and being self-sufficient with government overreach and interference with private property rights. There's got to be a very delicate balance there, and I'm concerned about preserving that balance. I want Virginia to be energy efficient. I want Virginia to have the resources. I don't want to follow the policies that the Democrats propose in regard to making ourselves hamstringed in regard to energy independence. They want to make us energy dependent, and
right.
That's the wrong direction.
Governor McAuliffe has done a great job in getting a lot of businesses into Virginia. No question, the guy can sell, and he's very enthusiastic and all that good stuff. But, Eddie, part of it is the governor's opportunity fund, which is basically where he goes to happy hour and takes somebody out for a steak and a scotch and gives away tax dollars to get companies in. So my question is this a good thing, or is it just a drink and corporate welfare? Which is it?
The latter. I'm very much concerned about that. I love economic growth. I'm a business attorney. I'm a business person. But I support the traditional Jeffersonian values of liberty and government. I don't want government picking the winners and losers. I don't want them putting their thumb on the scale by laws and regulations or giving away tax breaks. That's not where we need to go. We need to protect free markets and promote economic growth, but not give away the taxpayers' money and pick the winners and losers. And that's, John, it's interesting. I've got 7 basic principles. My guiding principles to be the next state senator from Senate 12. That's my number 5. I don't know if you've got a minute for me to cover the other.
Sure, go ahead.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Well, number 1 is I will serve as the voice of my constituents in Hanover and Henrico, and no one else. No special interest will ever come ahead of the people. I will work to serve the citizens and make myself available and be accountable for my record. That's principle 1. Number 2, I will uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Virginia. I'll work to defend and protect the freedoms of my citizens and not let government encroach upon them, including the Second Amendment. Principle 3 is I'll oppose higher taxes and look to lower them. Too many Virginia families and businesses are already struggling to make ends meet. The last thing Richmond should do is make it even harder. Principle 4 is, as we've discussed earlier, I will insist on responsible spending policies and protect the hard-earned dollars of our citizens. Every penny that Richmond spends is money that you and I earned. It's not the state's. It's ours. And I'll only support spending that is absolutely necessary for the government to meet its core functions and that's properly justified, and we will hold the government accountable once it's done. Principle 5 was protecting free markets we just discussed. Principle 6, I will support education policies that empower parents and students, not bureaucrats. Parents deserve greater flexibility to find the best educational options for their children's needs, whether it be public schools, parochial schools, secular private schools, or homeschooling. And Principle 7, I will defend innocent life. There's no greater role for government than to protect the life and safety of its citizens, especially those unable to protect themselves, including the unborn.
Okay, why don't we continue on that theme? Mark Earley, former Virginia Attorney General, now opposes capital punishment in Virginia. What say you?
The Commonwealth has the right to impose capital punishment. And I personally, have religious beliefs that make me concerned about in which cases capital punishment should be imposed. I would look at that in a very conservative and religious basis. But the government has the right to impose capital punishment.
So you would be in favor of continuing capital punishment in Virginia, Eddie, even though, as an attorney, you have to admit this. There are now literally 1,000 cases across the U.S. where people on death row have been released because of new evidence, or they found that detectives falsified evidence or new DNA. But if that person's dead, that's it. So how do you balance what you just said with the reality of what we're finding out now?
Well, we balance it by having the laws reviewed from time to time. We have DNA evidence now that we didn't have 20 years ago. I mean, when I tried my first murder case, we were dealing with blood types of A, B, and O. We didn't have genetics testing at that point in time. So, the General Assembly has addressed those laws in the last few years to ensure that where evidence is available to be retested and confirmed, that we do that. You're absolutely right. We need to make sure that if such a drastic punishment as death is administered, that it is done with absolute certainty. The government has the right to impose the death penalty, but as I mentioned earlier, I personally, through my own religious beliefs, have concerns about when that should be imposed and how, and I'll bring those beliefs to the Virginia Senate as well.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is you would not stand in the way of Virginia continuing to exercise capital punishment. Is that what I've heard?
Yeah, that is. If you want to boil it down to the bottom line, that is correct.
I'm a bottom line guy.
The government has the right to impose capital punishment, and I will support the government's right to do that. But again, I share your concerns about making sure of certainty, and I personally would prefer other methods, if at all possible, as opposed to capital punishment. But the government's right is there.
Red light cameras in Virginia. Conservative caucus leader Ben Klein in the House had legislation he couldn't get out of committee in 2015 that basically said we would ban all red light cameras in Virginia, citing all sorts of stats. He couldn't even get the thing out of committee. If you were in the state Senate, Eddie, in Virginia, how do you stand on that?
That's a great question. That's a great, interesting matter because I think all things have competing values. And you take a look at overreach of government, but you take a look at government safety. How do you balance those out? You take a look at government's intrusion upon personal liberties, and then you take a look again on safety issues, and how do you balance those out? I am concerned about the level of usage of cameras and privacy. On the other hand, I think that there are certain instances where they may be justified. One of the things I do, John, for my private recreation is I like to travel, and I've been to other countries, and it's interesting to see how many different countries have different ways of doing that.
All right. Well, it sounds like you're kind of undecided on that. Eddie, we're out of time. We want to thank Eddie Whitlock for being with us. Hey, Eddie, very quickly, what's your website?
Whitlock.com, www.whitlock.com.
All right, Eddie.
WhitlockforSenate.com.
Thanks for being with us.